Good afternoon, everybody. It is 6/7 of 2021. Another beautiful week here on Monday. And as we're sitting here, we're listening to Huey Lewis and the news. So let me go ahead and get Huey Lewis and the news cut here. And we will roll right into our next segment for political theater. I am your host, like always. I am Charles Nash, and it's a great day to be an American. Speaking of being an American, so there are a lot of things that's going on right now in the news. And when I say a lot of things, I mean a lot of things. A lot of big political, a lot of big ups and downs, and why not bring the ups and downs when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic that none of us, again, can escape? So why not dive into it? So tonight I'm going to be bringing you some different topics. The biggest one that everyone has heard for the last probably 78 hours is over the emails that have been pushed out by the Freedom of Information Act for Dr. Fauci's emails. So we're going to dive right into them here. So as we all know here, about 2.5, possibly 3 weeks ago, Rand Paul, Republican senator, grilled Dr. Fauci in the Senate hearing about gain of functions. Now, for most people do not understand or even know what it means when I say gain of functions. So, gain of functions, I'm going to break this down. In the scientific community, gain of functions is basically, you take the coronavirus, for example. Now, we were told, and we've been told for over a year and a half, that the coronavirus came from a bat, or that it was somehow passed from a bat to somebody that ate a bat that wasn't cooked in Wuhan properly. We even heard that there was early last year in the Wuhan viral labs over there that there were some workers that got some of the coronavirus on themselves and went out into the public, and that's how it was spread. No matter what you believe, or as the mainstream media would say, whatever conspiracy theory you believe, we now know the truth. And no matter how much the mainstream media is going to spin this, we know the truth. And now we know the truth tenfold thanks to the Freedom of Information Act and what they pulled out of Dr. Fauci's emails. So we're going to dive right into this. So on Tucker Carlson here the other night on Fox News, he was diving into the Dr. Fauci emails criminal investigation. So this is what we learned. We learned that Dr. Fauci him and his staff under the Obama administration was funding the Wuhan lab. Their purpose was giving money to the Wuhan lab, and they were going through performing gain of functions. Now, gain of functions, like I was previously talking about, you're taking a virus or a bacteria or anything really you want that's already bad, and you're making it 10 times worse. You're strengthening the virus or whatever the subject matter is that you're experimenting on. So in this case, they were experimenting on COVID-19, like they've done with SARS and probably everything else under the moon. That is gain of functions. It is basically taking, in our case, the coronavirus, breaking down the building blocks of it, knowing how it works, and then making 10 times something like that even worse, to its strongest capacity. Their whole philosophy is on it, folks. Well, if we don't see what happens with making a virus, top-notch strength, it could mutate on its own, and if it does that, we won't know how to stop it. Folks, it's called playing God. Plain and simple. There is no, this is for the benefit of mankind. As much as they want to pass that little tidbit along to everybody about how this is, somehow going to help humanity in the future, it's not. Look what it's done. It's now all over the world. It's killed millions of people worldwide, supposedly, and everybody had to go out and get vaccines. Of course, if you're Dr. Fautci made a comment here the other night that said, well, because of this research and the way that we broke down the coronavirus, we now have a better understanding that we could potentially make a vaccine for, AIDS or HIV. Folks, he has no credibility anymore. The emails that I'm about to read that was on Tucker Carlson tonight, it basically shows everything that was going on. And what was going on was criminal. There's just no other way to say it. So, getting into it. So, on March of last year, Dr. Fautci was interviewed on Tucker Carlson's show. They treated him with respect, gave him serious answers that the American people wanted to know. He seemed like he was pretty clear and forthcoming. Well, apparently this sleazeball, and I'm going to call him a sleazeball, wasn't forthcoming, and he's not as innocent as he seems. So we're going to get right into the emails. Again, this is thanks to the Freedom of Information Act that was requested by BuzzFeed. So, for 2020. So, here they are. The first email that popped up was January 31st of 2020. It states, to a immunologist called Christine Anderson, who works in the Scraps Research Institute in California. Anderson warned Fauci that the COVID appeared to have been manipulated in a laboratory. The response here: the usual features of the virus make up really small parts of the genome, less than 0.1%. So one has to look closely at all the sequences to see some of these features, and potentially they look engineered. The very next day, on February 1st, Tony Fauci wrote back, "Thanks, Christine. Talk to you soon on the call." Fauci then sent an urgent email to his top deputy, Hugh Archencloss. The subject in this email, in all caps, was important. Hugh, it is essential that we speak in the AM. Keep your cell phone on you. Read this paper as well as the email that I will forward you to let you know. You will have tasks today that must be done. That was Tony Fauci's reply. Attached in the email document was entitled Barack Natural Medicines, SARS Gain of Function PDF. The Barack is an attachment which refers to Ralph Barack, a virologist based in the United States who collaborated with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Barack worked with a woman called Dr. Shi Zignal, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, known as, in Wuhan, the Bat Lady, because she manipulates the coronavirus that infects bats. So these are directly from Dr. Fauci's emails, and there's tons of them here that were unearthed. Not only does it go back and forth between his colleagues in the Wuhan Institute lab, but you also have people that he had emailed that were emailing him questions, doctors here in the United States, basic American citizens, regular public individuals. He had doctors that had wrote him multiple times about the same thing, about the coronavirus looking like it was manufactured, not natural mutation. And one of his emails that he wrote back to an individual, he put on there that I can't read your emails. They're too long. They're too long. You can't read an email that someone is sending you, especially if it's another doctor that could be giving you, I don't know, information that could be critical to saving lives. Dr. Fauci, that's what you are. That's what you're supposed to do, is save people's lives, are you not? You're the guy that gets paid $600,000 a year for your job, the highest paying job in Washington, D.C. You don't have time to read an email? It might be a couple pages long. You don't have time for that? The other things that go in there is what we've talked about before. I have talked about the mask mandates. I have talked about the breakdown of masks for the last 2,000 years. There's been other individuals that have brung up the same thing with masks, not just myself. I cannot take full credit for that because there's lots of people out there who are showing the same things that I've showed. But there's also emails basically contradicting Dr. Fauci again with masks. Dr. Fauci made several comments that masks don't provide protection. Then it was masks do provide somewhat protection, but still you got a distance. Then it went from just a mask to no mask to 4 or 5 masks. Then it went back to, well, if you've had the COVID vaccination, you don't have to wear a mask. To, well, you should still have, a mask handy just in case. But yet he's got his own email here showing that he has stated many times to top doctors, public officials, that masks don't work. The common mask that I've talked about, which is the surgical masks that you get in the hospitals, that you can buy off the shelves. Folks, I've said this before. It says it right there in the box. It says they do not protect against COVID-19. It doesn't take a genius or Dr. Fauci to tell somebody this. Just read the box. Just read the box. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. I don't know why all of a sudden everyone is looking at these emails and going, oh my God, there's a fire here. I mean, we didn't know this. I have been saying this since this started. These masks don't work. They have historically in the past. Look what I said about the whole thing with the crow masks, the bird beak masks during the Black Plague. They didn't work then. They didn't work now. Masks don't work. Yeah, you might sneeze in one and it might help you protect, the mucus that would spray out. But again, it's not going to protect you against anything that's airborne. The virus is too small. You might as well be wearing a chain link fence on your face, folks. That's what it does. It's like a furnace filter. I've said this multiple times. So getting back to Dr. Fauci, we had some other things that came out just within, the last 24 hours here. This was a nice read that I found on Newsmax, which if you haven't been to Newsmax, it's actually a very credible news network. And I would highly recommend anybody going there for information. They're pretty fair. It says, Stanford epidemiologist states Fauci's credibility is entirely shot. A Stanford epidemiologist called out Dr. Anthony Fauci flip-flopping from the beginning of the global coronavirus pandemic to now, saying the science did not change, Fauci did. The doctor states that I think his credibility is entirely shot. Stanford professor Jay Badahachanaya told Fox News and affiliates. The Ingram angle on Friday. So there you have it. I mean, you've got you've got specialists from all over the medical field stating that this man's credibility is shot. You have Senate Republicans in the House and in the Senate all asking for Tony Fauci's removal or resignation from office. And then, of course, you got the Biden administration coming out and basically stating, we're not going to fire Tony Fauci because he's just too important. So that's what you got going on there with the coronavirus, folks. We've got a liar that's being paid $600,000, top paid job, and he's blowing up smoke there up everyone's rear end. So there you go. That's what we got going on when it comes to the coronavirus. We're still back to the drawing board, and there's still more. I mean, there was more news even coming out today. I found this one very interesting, that they're saying now that China is basically going through, and they're basically going through and burning all of their lab information, documents, anything that can be tied to the coronavirus in their labs in Wuhan. Oh, why is that not surprising? I mean, now that the smoking gun has come out, I mean, if you were to go back to the Nixon years, which before my time, but still, if you were to go back to the Nixon years or anything previous, a smoking gun like this that would have came out, you would have had people in jail, resigning, people trying to climb in on the coverage of this, and just you'd have people mounting an effort to, get to the truth. Nope, not here. Mainstream media across the board, I have been across the board today looking at all the information, dead silent. Dead silent on the matter. You got a couple of networks, not many, but everybody else is dead silent. They have to pull the wagons around, folks, to protect each other. They went with the lie for a year and a half, and now that the smoking gun has come out, they can't look at the end of the barrel where it's smoking from and say, yeah, we were wrong. Nope, you'll never hear them say that. So there's that with the coronavirus. So we got some other interesting things today. This broke here in the last 4 hours. The Colonial Pipeline Company that had the hack here 2 weeks ago with the gas line on the eastern side of the United States, which caused a national shortage and people scurrying around to go crazy. And I mean crazy because you had people taking garbage bags and trying to put gas in garbage bags. Which, it's ironic watching these videos. I mean, it really is. I've seen a couple on YouTube and TikTok, and come on. Folks, use your brains. The funny part, and it's not funny, but it is funny in a way. So the Colonial Pipeline Company, remember how they said, we're going to have this back on by Wednesday? And they did. Well, yeah, after they paid the hacker group by the name of DarkSide over $4 million ransom in Bitcoin, untraceable Bitcoins, to get their systems back online. Well, here within the last 5 hours, I was laughing at it then because I'm thinking, if you're going to hook up all these things to where hackers can get into them, and you're going to put it on the World Wide Web to gain access to all these things, which I don't understand why a fuel company needs to be online. I really don't. You're telling me that we have to have everything online. What happened when we didn't have the internet? You took a wrench, or you had a system with an on and off button, and that was about it. Now, I'm not computer savvy. I don't know anything about the gas industry, but I know one thing. It cannot be that hard to have something that's just a standard feature? Why didn't you people even have an override feature? A manual override feature. Why does everything have to be digital? Or if you're going to have it to where it's digital, why didn't you guys put a fiber line that's invisible to the network so people can't hack into it? Getting back to the story, though, it says, lighting up dark side. The U.S. recovers majority of the Colonial Pipeline ransom in its first-of-a-kind operation. I read this today and heard this on the radio, and I laughed. I really did, because you've got this new bureau of U.S. investigators who are basically going through and they investigate. It's part of the Department of Justice, and they're basically going through and they're trying to find these hackers with the FBI, the DOJ, to try to recover funds from hackers. And they state on there they're not going to be able to recover all the hacks, the transfers of money that companies are having to pay hackers, but they just happen to recover the Colonial Pipeline money, the $4 million worth. And that they're still asking all major companies, please start investing in cyber warfare, because this is going to continue and it's just going to get worse. Yeah, folks, if you're a company and you don't have the money, big or small, don't put it online. If it doesn't have to be online, why put it online to where it can be hacked? That's like the meat processing plant here last week that got hacked and the production line shut down. Now you've got all kinds of beef, steak, you name it, pork, all of it. It's all shot up in price by $4 or $5. I went to the store with my wife here the other day at Myers in Marion, Ohio. What would normally cost me, maybe 10 or 11 bucks, $18 now for a general pack, 2-pack of steaks. And I'm not talking something monstrous. I'm talking something small, folks. But again, why do you have to modernize all this stuff to where everything has to be online? What part of a meat packing company says we have to put everything digitally online? You're telling me you can't operate without being online. Or again, why don't you have a private network or an invisible network to where hackers can't even see it? Folks, the technology exists. It's there. So why aren't companies using it? Or why are we online with everything? I know it's the 21st century. Call me old-fashioned. I don't get it. I really don't. It's a meat packing plant. I just find this incredibly ridiculous that, again, and what really ticks me off about this is then you've got the Biden administration and the federal government stating stuff like this, but yet you've got our president sitting on his fingers doing nothing. Oh, it's the private sector's problem. We can't get involved. I mean, it's the private sector. Yeah, you're right, Mr. President. It is the private sector. But, and here's the big but, when you have these private sectors that's monopolized, and there's only, 4 major meatpacking industries here in the United States, and 2 of them are owned by foreign entities, and they control all the major food supply, yeah, kinda is the government's problem a little bit. This kind of goes back to me saying, why are we making things federally regulated or monopolized to a point where if someone does hack us like this from a far entity, we're sitting ducks in water? Like the meatpacking companies. I get you can't break them up. So why don't you start giving incentives to smaller companies? privately owned companies to distribute the food production out in the United States so that we don't have this problem. If one goes down, it's not going to cause an issue. It's kind of the same thing with our energy departments. Why do we only have key areas in the United States, if they haven't been shut down by Joe Biden, that if they do get shut down, we're dead in the water. Along with this article, I'm laughing at this, and it's not funny, but it is because it's so predictable. It's so predictable, especially with the Democrats. Here we are again. You got the FBI, and you've got the U.S. Intelligence Committee and investigators saying, yeah, and not only is this going to continue with the hacks, they're probably going to start targeting our energy systems. Okay, well, you know that our defense companies are already saying, and the departments are already saying that our energy departments are not up to date, nor are they capable of fending off attacks. So what are you going to do about it, Joe? What are you going to do when they shut down our power companies next? Rather the hottest part of the year or the coldest part of the year. What are you going to do, Joe? Are we going to do like they've been doing of keep paying ransoms to everybody and maybe hope that, this new department of investigators can recover the money? Why are we even negotiating with terrorists? That's what they are. These hackers are terrorists. The one that attacked the meat processing plant, they went by the name of R Evil. R Evil. I mean, I really don't get this administration. It's just like, instead of being proactive, they're just reactive to everything. But their reaction to everything is, we're going to do nothing. The American people are going to suffer. You guys figure out how to dig yourselves out. You want to tax us to death, but, you don't want to help us. You just want to dig that hole deeper. And it's just really sad. There's nothing else to say with it. I mean, we're in for some hard times for the next 3 years. We definitely are. Getting on to some other news. Some other things that I found very enlightening today was the VP Kamala Harris. Well, not only has she been a mess at the border that she was tasked to do and hasn't done anything on, she took a trip today. She took a trip overseas to Guatemala to confront their president and the ever-growing problem with illegal immigrants from Guatemala and other places south migrating up and causing the influctuation at the border wall. And basically what they wanted to tackle was, she wanted to go over there and blame the Guatemalan community and their leaders that it's because of crime, poverty, lack of understanding about climate change. Climate change, folks. Climate change. That's why all of the refugees are coming to the southern border here in the United States, because of climate change. Well, she got a rude awakening. And not only did her trip start out bumpy because the jet that she was on had mechanical issues and had to turn around. Then she gets there and she has to backtrack on her message because a host of countries, not just Guatemala, basically blatantly said to her, especially the Guatemalan president, came out and basically said They blame Joe Biden and VP Harris for the crisis on the U.S. border. Remember I said, folks, Joe's going to have to end up taking credit for this disaster. Remember what he said during the debates? Remember what he said after the presidency was finalized here? Remember what he said? Oh, yeah, come on. Come on to the United States. You know, the land of the free. We've got a rotating door. Remember, he said that. He said, come to the United States. The doors were open. He was stripping away the Trump policies. That worked. That worked. Under President Trump, we didn't have this problem, did we? We didn't have this problem. As President Trump is quoted saying, we have a big, beautiful wall. And it worked. It worked, didn't it? They cracked down on illegal immigrations. There wasn't the drugs coming across the border. I mean, for crying out loud, here the other day. This was just yesterday on the news. I read that the biggest shipment of fentanyl came across the southern border. They stopped it from drug cartels. Now just imagine what they're not catching coming across that southern border right now. They said there was enough fentanyl that was picked up off the raid that came across the border. It could kill and wipe out over half the United States. That's insane. And the bad part is, we're in a drug war. And it's just not with illegal immigrants in Mexico. Because they're getting it from China. China is shipping it over to the drug cartels to ship into the United States. But yet you have Joe Biden sitting here saying that the biggest issue in the United States right now is what? Racism. Systemic racism. Racism is the biggest issue in the United States. Well, you got people that just, what day is this? Black people don't have lawyers, and they don't have sponsors, and they have great ideas, but Whitey, like myself, who made comments about racial jungles and separating kids in schools because of race, they don't have the same opportunities as everyone else. That's Joe Biden. That is Joe Biden. Those are the comments that our president makes on a daily basis. We have a war on drugs going on. We have violence going on all over the place. And you're sitting there spouting race as the biggest systemic problem here in the United States is racism? No wonder everything is falling apart at the seams here. I mean, violence is up. It's up big time under this administration. I just heard today, some crazy stories. Like the one that came out of California with the Amazon worker. A lady, 67 years old, little old woman. She asked an Amazon delivery guy if her package had showed up. And he basically replied to her, you should check your white privilege. And when she addressed him about the comment, he beat the hell out of her to a bloody pulp, hospitalized her. And it was all on video, on a door cam. We had shootings today for road rage. A 10-year-old got killed today. A 10-year-old boy in a car driving down the road because two gentlemen decided there wasn't enough room on the road or somebody wasn't going fast enough. So they pulled out guns and shot a 10-year-old. Where's that on the news? Where is Joe Biden at? Where is this administration at going on about real violence? Nowhere. He's still stuck on systemic racism being the biggest problem and the biggest threat to the United States. So there you go. I mean, there is... the news today is great, folks. I mean, it shows a very stark contrast between what I like to call common sense and the insanity that's going on right now under this administration, because they're pushing it. And did everyone hear about today the psychiatrist? She was a Yale psychiatrist. Did anyone hear about this? I have had and talked about, just like many other people have talked about, the whole thing with critical race theory in schools and education. Well, this goes to a whole new degree here. There was a Yale psychiatrist who she claims fantasized about killing white people. She basically got removed from teaching or doing, her job because they're saying that she's not mentally stable. And she's on video talking about this with people. And pushing that agenda. Killing people because they're white. These are the individuals that we have teaching in our schools. This is the kind of thing that makes you scratch your head and just bite your nails at night, thinking about where you're sending your children off to. I have children, and I'm going to tell you something. It's scary. Just because I live here in Marion, Ohio, and my children go to a good school, doesn't mean that, they're out of the clutches of this whole critical race theory and the negative teachings that liberal teachers, and I'm not even going to say liberals anymore, I'm just going to say it, communist teachers are teaching kids. Or the whole thing with rewriting history. Teaching that America is bad. That we were founded on bad principles. There is just so much today, folks, that I could sit here and talk about, and I'm trying to fit this all in. Something that I was going to mention, and I'm going to mention it now. D-Day, here the other day. I believe it was the 76th or 77th anniversary of D-Day. Joe Biden snubbed the whole celebration, the whole look back on D-Day. Didn't say anything about it. Pissed off a majority of veterans here in the United States and veteran organizations. Snubbed it. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this because I'm a history buff. The same thing that we were fighting against in D-Day, which was evil. Plain, simple evil. You can't get any worse than that. Adolf Hitler. And what was his message to the world? A superior race. The superior race. To rule everyone under that superior race. And if you weren't in that race, you rather were killed, put in a concentration camp, or you had no rights. You were under the iron fist of the Germans. That's what we fought against. And unfortunately, that same evil is rearing its ugly head in what we've got going on right now. I mean, it's going on right now. I know I'm not a big broadcast voice. I'm not. I wish I was bigger. Maybe I will be. And I'm not trying to push myself off to get more viewers. If I get through to one person, I've accomplished what I'm doing on this podcast. And my message is, everybody has a voice. Get out there and be a voice. Stand up for these things. Get involved. I don't care if it's at the lowest level. You don't have to go clear to the top and get involved. Start from the ground up. Even the smallest movement can have large consequences. Not in a negative way, but in a positive way. And like I said, there is plenty out here in the news that I could go on and on and on about today. But I wanted to touch base over the basic important things that's been going on here the last, I'd say, week to 72 hours here. And hopefully my message has got out to everybody. Who, if you haven't heard it, or this is the first time you're seeing this podcast, I appreciate it. We're on Rumble, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Please leave a message. If you have anything you want to talk about, if you just want to leave your comment on my accounts, please leave your comments. I don't even care if you agree with me or not. Now, if you're going to write something vulgar, I'm not going to take you seriously. But please leave a comment. Now, before I wrap up my podcast, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before. I am going to do a little bit of an advertisement here. So bear with me. This will be my first one. No one's paying me for this. This is something that has come up in my household here of lately. And I just, as a parent, and someone who is also an educator, I wanted to pass this along to everybody. If you have a child that is coming to age, or maybe they just have questions, and you don't really know that maybe speaking to them is going to get them to understand the what you're talking about. You need something with more concrete context to it. And we all know what I'm talking about here, folks. I'm talking about children coming to age, puberty, sex, the birds and the bees. Unfortunately, it can be a hard thing, but it happens to us all. Our children grow up. They're going to learn things. They're going to explore, and you should encourage them. But if you're going to encourage learning, please sit down with your children. That's the best way for them to learn information. Don't put it in the hands of a stranger or somebody that you don't know. Sit down with your children and have a conversation. So if you're having this come up, like I am with my oldest child, she's starting to come to age. She's got questions. I'm going to go ahead and throw this book out here. It's a very informative book. It's called It's Perfectly Normal. The author is Rob H. Harris and Michael Emberley. This book is it covers chapters by chapters, from birth, male and female productive systems, puberty, changes in the body, sex, different things that young kids, minors to adults, are going to experience in their lives as they get older. It's a very good book. It's got illustrations in there. You can read along with your child. It just is a very easy icebreaker to get, one, the information that they need and that you need to construe to them, and two, it's an understanding, a collective understanding between you and your child. So I highly, highly recommend this book. Again, It's Perfectly Normal. Changing Bodies, Growing Up, Sex and Sexual Health. Again, the author is Robert H. Harris and Michael Emberley. So that's going to conclude another podcast and another edition of Political Theater. I am your host, Charles Nash, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.